Hello, Carl Jung. I don't even know where to begin. I'm 64 years old. I really thought my life had settled. I just wanted some peace with my grandchildren and a few close friends. Sometime after my husband passed, I met a man in a group for older adults. At first, he made me feel like I had come back to life. He called me every day, complimented me, said things like, "I've never met a woman like you at your age." And he always acted as if he was worried about me. But slowly, my whole day started to revolve around his moods. If I wanted to spend time with my grandkids, he got angry. If I needed an evening alone, he went silent for days. I feel like I've gone back to being a nurse, a therapist, and very often, a walking wallet for a grown man. At my age, I thought I should know better, and yet I walked right into this trap. Does that mean I'm just too weak?
What I hear isn't a weak woman. What I hear is a woman who has lived her whole life with an open heart and is now being approached by men who are carrying unhealed shadows. In your story, there's already more than one figure, a man who needs you to orbit around him like the moon around the earth, and another man who uses his own pain and self-pity to keep you stuck in the role of caregiver. You didn't create their shadows, but if you don't see them clearly, you'll end up living on behalf of those shadows. And you are not the only one. Many women over 50, over 60, are repeating the very same pattern simply because no one has ever shown them what these kinds of men actually look like. Today, not just for you, but for every woman listening, I want to name 3 types of men you should never fully trust, even when they look kind, loving, or pitiful. We'll start with the first type, the man I call the king of the world. The first man we need to talk about is the one I call the king of the world. He often walks into a woman's life like a late-in-life gift from the universe, confident, successful, charming, apparently wise. And especially in the first weeks, it feels like he sees only you. He'll say things like, "I can't believe it took me this long to meet you. You're not like other women your age. It feels like we were meant to meet." If you've gone through lost divorce or long loneliness, those sentences land right in the deepest place that longs to be seen. And there is nothing wrong with that part of you responding. The problem is not your feelings. The problem is the repeating pattern this man brings with him. With the king of the world, I often see a 3-stage cycle: idealization, devaluation, discard. In the first stage, he puts you on a pedestal, not because he truly wants to know you, but because he needs a new shiny mirror to reflect back his own greatness. You'll notice things like almost every story circles back to his achievements, talents, and vision. He listens to you, but mostly to collect data. What you like, what you fear, how you've been hurt, so he can use it later. The relationship moves very fast. Big promises, future plans, talk of living together, rearranging your life, all in a few weeks. In this phase, your body is often excited but slightly dizzy. Everything is happening so quickly and so intensely that the calmer part of you hasn't caught up yet. If you've ever heard yourself think, "Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should just enjoy it very often," that isn't you being too picky. That's your intuition trying to warn you that this speed is not natural. Then at some point, the second stage starts: devaluation. The early compliments slowly turn into corrections, judgments, comparisons. At your age, you really should. No one treats you as well as I do. You're too sensitive, most people couldn't handle you. You go from "you're such a special woman" to "you are the problem" without realizing when it shifted. Many women tell me that in this stage, they feel like a small planet starting to spin around a sun called him. Their schedule, their energy, even what they eat, where, or who they see, has to be calculated around the mood of a grown man. If you pay attention, your body starts to change. Your chest tightens more easily when you think about calling him. Your stomach hardens every time you want to say no. Your sleep gets lighter because tonight everything is calm, but tomorrow you don't know what you'll be criticized for. This is when his shadow begins to swallow the inner space of your life. By the third stage, discard, many women tell me they barely recognize themselves. When they begin to ask for respect, when they say "I need," or when they try to set even the smallest boundary, he grows cold, irritated, or slowly fades away. The sentences they often hear are, "I don't think this is working," "You're too sensitive," or "I need someone who understands me better." And the woman, after everything, loses not only a relationship, but also her image of herself. She ends up in the chair across from me saying, "I must be terrible to let someone treat me this way." What I want you to hear clearly is this: You did not create his arrogance. You did not inflate that shadow. But if you can't recognize this type early, you will get pulled into his orbit until you no longer know where you end and his shadow begins. There are a few early signs that repeat with the king of the world. He talks a lot about himself but asks very little about your real life. He moves extremely fast, promises plans, talk of a shared future all in a few weeks. When you slow down because of kids' grandkids' work hobbies, he becomes sulky angry or says things like, "You don't appreciate me." You start apologizing for completely normal things, needing a quiet evening time with family or going to bed early. If you see yourself somewhere inside this pattern, it does not mean you're foolish or weak. It means that the shadow of a man has found a woman with an open heart and is trying to turn that heart into a mirror for himself. In the next parts, we'll talk about two other kinds of men who are just as dangerous, but instead of using arrogance, they use self-pity, silence, and something they call protection to slowly take over your life. If the king of the world uses glitter and speed to pull you into his orbit, the second type uses pity and silence to keep you stuck in the role of caregiver. I call him the poor me man. When you first meet him, he's usually not loud or showy. Instead, he opens with long stories about how life has treated him unfairly, an ex who was crazy or cruel, ungrateful adult children, backstabbing colleagues, a world that never really understood him. If you are a woman who has spent years caring for others as a mother, a wife, an emotional nurse, for many people hearing those stories, your heart will automatically open. You see real pain, and the part of you that knows how to care steps forward without being asked. In the first months, the relationship can feel deep. You feel like you're doing something meaningful, that you finally met a good, sensitive man, so different from the loud, self-centered men you've known before. But if you look more closely, you'll notice a repeating pattern. In almost every story, he is the victim, and someone else is always the villain. You almost never hear, "That part was my fault. I should have taken responsibility. Here is how I hurt someone." The shadow here doesn't bloat with laughter, it swells with tears and guilt. Many women tell me a very similar story. At first, they just meant to be kind, have coffee, listen, send a few supportive messages. But slowly, without noticing, they begin to feel responsible for his mood. If they don't reply quickly enough, he writes, "I knew it. I don't matter to you." If they're busy with grandkids or their own plans, he says, "Everyone leaves me in the end. I'm used to it." He doesn't need to shout or pound the table. He simply withdraws warmth and lets silence do the rest. The result is that you start filling that silence, texting more, giving more of your time, and slowly pulling energy away from healthy relationships to pour into a bottomless well. Your body often speaks first. Your chest feels heavy when his name lights up your screen. You start postponing your own tasks so you don't upset him. You feel guilty every time you want a day just for yourself. At some point, you realize the story has flipped. You're no longer building a grown-up relationship. You've become the one nursing, soothing, and funding a man who refuses to grow up. The shadow here isn't loud, but it slowly eats away at your time, your money, and your peace. There are some early signs that often show up with the poor me man. In most stories, he is always the one who has been wronged and almost never admits his own part. Very quickly, he says things like, "You're the only one who understands me. If you leave too, I don't know how I'll cope," turning you into his only emotional life support. When you set very reasonable boundaries, not lending money, needing alone time, not answering the phone in the middle of the night, he withdraws, goes silent, and you are made to feel cruel. You start to feel responsible for his feelings. If he's sad, it's your fault. If he's lonely, you have to fix it. If he has money problems, you're the first person he accidentally hints to. If you find yourself in a relationship where you feel emotionally drained, you are constantly rescuing and soothing, and you can't remember the last time he looked you in the eye and asked, "And how are you really?" then chances are you're not in an equal partnership. You're back in a very familiar role, mother, nurse, therapist, and walking bank. And just like with the king of the world, the important question isn't, "Why am I so stupid?" but rather, can I see that this is a repeating pattern where the eternal victim shadow of a man is looking for a tired, lonely, caring woman to carry the weight of his adulthood for him? These first two types, the self-crowned king and the poor me victim, have one thing in common: they slowly teach you not to trust your own feelings and limits. One does it with arrogance and direct attack, the other with tears and silence. But there is a third type, more dangerous, because he looks responsible and stable, often appearing like the perfect protector at your age while secretly positioning himself to step into your house, your accounts, and your most important life decisions. That is the man I call the quiet predator. If the king of the world makes you dizzy with promises and the poor me man wears you out with guilt, the third type is dangerous because he looks completely reasonable. I call him the quiet predator, the man who shows up as the perfect protector, but step by step places his hands on every important door in your life, your home, your money, your documents, your health, your relationships. At first, he may not be romantic or poetic. He appears stable, responsible, organized, hates chaos. He'll say things that sound very reassuring. Let me help you with these complicated papers. At your age, you shouldn't have to go to the hospital alone. Let me hold on to this for you. People take advantage so easily. For a woman who has had to manage everything alone for years, hearing someone say, "Let me help, let me protect you," can feel like taking a deep breath after a long day. But the quiet predator never just helps out. He follows a familiar progression: help, touch, hold, tighten, hold. At first, he helps with very concrete things, driving you places, fixing things around the house, making calls on your behalf, showing you how to use online banking. Then he begins to touch more sensitive areas, looking over your bills, checking your accounts, holding on to certain documents for safekeeping. If you're not paying attention, he gradually starts to hold access. His name shows up on certain accounts. He knows your passwords and PIN codes. Important calls about money or health begin to pass through his phone first. Finally, he tightens. You feel you have to ask permission before spending money. You hesitate to tell your kids or friends what he's involved in. You become more afraid of his anger or silence than of illness, loneliness, or your family's opinions. At that point, this is no longer about love or companionship. It has turned into a story about power and ownership. Your body usually signals this very early. Part of you feels relieved by the help, but there is a small tightening in your stomach every time he says, "Let me hold this for you." You start putting off mentioning him to your children when it comes to documents or money because a part of you knows this doesn't feel quite right. Whenever you imagine saying, "No thank you, I can handle this myself," your throat tightens slightly as if that sentence is hard to push out. That is not ingratitude. Very often that is your intuition banging on the door. There are common signs that come with this quiet predator. He pushes quickly for ideas like, "You shouldn't let outsiders handle your money or papers. Let me do it. I'm more trustworthy," where outsiders can sometimes mean your own children or close friends. He often says things that make you doubt the people who love you most. Your daughter only calls when she needs something. Your friends aren't really here for you the way I am. The goal is to shrink your circle of safety until he becomes the center. When you say no or slow things down, he may not yell, but he suddenly turns cold using silence, a disappointed face, or phrases like, "I thought you trusted me more than that," making you feel like you've betrayed a good man. Over time, you find yourself asking permission for very ordinary things, buying something for yourself, giving money to a grandchild, seeing old friends, or making decisions about your home or assets. If as you hear this, you realize you are at any point along the line of help. Touch, hold, tighten. The most important thing is not to attack yourself with, "How could I be so foolish?" The important thing is to name what is actually happening. This is not just a kind man. This is someone slowly testing how far you will let him go with your home, your money, your relationships, and your body. When you start to see it under this light, you recognize something simple and powerful. A safe man does not need control of every door in your life to feel important. Once you recognize what these three types of men look like, the next question is always, how can I tell early before I've let them too far into my life? I want to give you a very simple test. You don't have to decode his entire psychology. You don't need a library of books. You just need to do one small thing, set a clear boundary early on, and watch how he responds. This boundary doesn't have to be dramatic or extreme. It can be something very ordinary that you genuinely need. Don't move fast in relationships. I need regular time for myself and for my family. I handle my own finances. I'm not comfortable talking about money, sex, future plans this early. You say it calmly without attacking, simply describing what is true for you. Then you sit back and observe. A safe man might be surprised, he might need a moment to process, but in the end, he will say something like, "I respect that. Okay, we'll slow down. No problem. You do what feels safe for you." He may not be perfect, but he is willing to adjust instead of crushing your boundary. The three types of men we've talked about usually respond very differently. The king of the world feels insulted as if you just dared to refuse his throne. He might say, "You're overreacting. If you really cared, you wouldn't put that above me." The poor me man collapses into victimhood, I see. "I guess I'm not as important as those things. If you really loved me, you would..." He never actually answers your boundary. He just tries to drag you back into feeling responsible for his emotions. The quiet predator may smile, but the climate in the room changes. His eyes become more calculating, his questions more layered, and you notice subtle attempts to renegotiate what you just said was non-negotiable. In all three cases, the common thread is they are not truly interested in how important this is to you. They are only interested in how it affects their power and comfort. You don't need to psychoanalyze a man. Just remember, a safe man does not treat your boundary as an insult. A dangerous man treats your boundary like a challenge or a game. There is one short sentence that, if you dare to say it, honestly will show you a great deal about the man standing in front of you. That sentence is, "This is important to me, and I'm not willing to change it." How do you feel about that? You don't use this as a trick, but as a way of speaking truthfully about what your soul actually needs. It might be time with your grandchildren, keeping your home in your own name, making your own choices about health or spirituality, not accepting yelling, silent punishment, or financial control. When you say it, you're not arguing. You're not trying to convince him. You are simply placing your truth on the table and inviting him to reveal his. The three types of men will react very differently. The king of the world feels dethroned. His shadow cannot tolerate the idea that there is something in your life he cannot command. He may mock you, attack, or withdraw his attention to punish you. The poor me man folds back into victim role, I understand. I guess I'm not as important as those things. If you really loved me, you would... He still hasn't answered your question. He's only trying to pull you back into taking care of his feelings. The quiet predator may keep smiling, but you feel the air change more scrutiny, more subtle, probing more attempts to bend or blur what you just said was non-negotiable. In all three cases, the shared truth is they are not asking themselves, "How can I respect what matters to her?" They are asking, "How does this limit what I can take from her?" A healthy man, even if he doesn't fully understand, will at least try to answer you honestly. "That's hard for me, but I respect it. I'll need some time to get used to that, but I don't want to push you. If this is something you truly won't change, I need to see whether I can stay without hurting you." You don't need a flawless man. You need a man who has grown up enough to accept that there are parts of your life that do not exist to serve him.
Thank you, Carl Jung. When I called, I thought I was just a foolish old woman, someone who should have known better by now. Now I see I'm not weak. I just couldn't see those shadows for what they were. I feel lighter, not because everything suddenly got better, but because for the first time I don't feel like my body and my intuition are my enemies. Maybe next time I won't stay silent when my chest tightens the way it did before.
If listening to these three types of men you also recognized yourself somewhere in this woman's story, it does not mean you are broken or too foolish to love. It simply means you have loved with an open heart in a world full of men carrying unhealed shadows. The real question now is not, how do I avoid ever making a mistake again? But rather, am I willing to trust my body, my intuition, and my boundaries again? Every time you say, "This matters to me, and I'm not willing to change it." How do you feel about that? You are not just testing a man. You are taking a small but very real step toward the woman. You can always become a woman who no longer trades her peace to keep anyone, even if that means some people will choose to leave. A safe man will be grateful that you protect your own heart. Only dangerous men feel offended when you guard the most precious things. You have your sense of self, your intuition, and the life you fought so hard to rebuild. If this video touched some part of your own story, whisper to yourself right now, "I am not broken. I am waking up." And if you want to keep sitting in conversations like this one, where the real stories of grown women are listened to and called by their true names, you can subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is not the only woman calling in. There are many more stories, women who have left women who are still in the storm, and women who are just beginning to realize they deserve a different kind of love. If you're ready, I invite you to step into the next video. Another call, another letter, another story from a woman like you, so that with each one, you gain one more small reason to choose your own peace. And if you want to mark this moment, leave a simple line in the comments, "I choose my peace." Not so that anyone can praise you for being strong, but so that you can see with your own eyes that in this exact moment, you chose to stand with the deepest part of yourself. You are not too old to be loved well, but you are also not too old to say no to the shadow of anyone who tries to walk into your life.